While most people think that the reason Bitcoin is dumping is because the whales are selling, BlackRock's latest move might suggest the otherwise. BlackRock just enabled its in-kind redemptions for their Bitcoin ETFs, which you could arguably say ends the paper Bitcoin rumors, but it might actually create a new attack on Bitcoin. But it could help to explain why everything you thought was true might just not be. Okay, guys, let's break this down. So, of course, I'm here with Sophie. Sophie's holding it down. We're actually dying today. We're both.
We're not okay right now.
Yeah, I think I got the house sick the other day, and actually I blame the baby. I blame the baby.
You think you got the house sick?
I blame the baby. Anyways, enough of us complaining. First things first. So, Monday, BlackRock launched their Bitcoin ETP, or the ETF, in UK for their retail investors. So the BlackRock ETF is now live in the UK. Obviously, a lot of people are saying this is extremely bullish. You know, it's going global. Now we're in, I believe the UK ETF market's about $5 trillion. So, you know, BlackRock Bitcoin ETF is going global. It is spreading. And a lot of people are saying this is bullish. And I mean, you could argue it is. Obviously, you guys know I am pretty neutral in regards to the ETF. In reality, I'm not the biggest fan of the ETF. I really like the framing of captured Bitcoin. And I think that's where what we're seeing is actually playing out. I'm going to go through a couple of headlines here. So first and foremost, actually, the first thing I'm going to go through is this tweet. So we're seeing this happen right here, which is, I don't know who this guy is, but he goes, Binance sell pressure since the start of 2025 has been astronomical. For those wondering, the top blue box, this one, is perpetuals, and the orange is spot. From the lows in early April to most recent all-time highs in early October, relentless spot selling, I don't know what TPing is, but whales TPing or something else. So it's looking at the Binance sell pressure right now, and we are seeing a ton of sell pressure. And obviously the last couple of weeks, actually over the last couple of months, we've been showing you guys and following the on-chain capital movement, and there has been a lot of sellers. We've been saying that this potentially is because 100K was like their number. You know, that was the number where they're like, this is the moon for us. So they sell some of their stack. We're seeing a lot of capital flow into ETFs. We're seeing the governments around the world selling Bitcoin. So there has been a lot of whale pressure. Now, what is interesting about this is, since the start of the year, of course, Binance, and anytime we see a dump, you can probably connect that to Binance selling. So a lot of people have been probably saying that it's CZ over there. They're just trying to dump the markets. I don't necessarily think it is just, you know, some kind of market manipulation or exchange kind of flooding the price, doing some spoof bids, etc., dumping the market makers. But we are starting to see that the data is showing us that anytime we kind of go up a little bit, there's a lot of selling pressure coming on Binance. And whether you like Binance or not, Binance has, I think, the largest liquidity in the world right now. They're you know, they might not be the biggest exchange, but they're up there. A lot of people say it's either Coinbase or Binance. Binance has the most liquidity right now. So in my opinion, they're the biggest exchange, which is very interesting to watch. You can see the data that anytime the price kind of dumps, there's a lot of selling going on Binance. Now, there has been a lot of conversation on what exactly is going on. Obviously, a lot of people are saying that, yeah, whales are kind of hitting their point. Now they're just dumping. They're dumping on the plebs out there. They're dumping on everyone else. They're looking for new bag holders. I don't necessarily think that is what's happening, though. You could also say there's some, market makers there which are trying to keep the price at a relative level. You can argue that a lot of the stuff that Trump is tweeting right now, I know that I've seen some headlines the last couple of days that every Trump tweet right now is him trying to manipulate the price so that they can, arbitrage the volatility and make a ton off of it, which we have seen. They've definitely been doing that, but I don't necessarily think that that's what these tweets are actually doing. But we are, again, seeing the data from Binance. Now, this guy, Sightbringer, he's actually, I really like his Twitter. He is a little hyperbolic in some of his stuff, but he's been hacking the algos. And this is his take. And the follow-up headline that I'm going to show you, I think really points to this being the case. So he's quote tweeting that last chart, and he goes, the chart is extremely revealing and almost everyone on X is misreading it. And here's what's actually going on. What the chart really shows is the top box, the blue box, is stablecoin outflows from derivatives venues. The bottom box, the orange one, is stablecoin outflows from spot exchange. Notice spot liquidity in orange on Binance has been collapsing relentlessly since January, meaning stable coins and fiat reserves are leaving spot venues. And then there's derivative liquidity has stayed steady or slightly up, which is leverage venues remained funded. And then the Bitcoin price has still gone up massively throughout all this. So the Bitcoin price, I mean, I don't know about massively. It's been a slow walk here. Anyways, his interpretation is this combination means it's not that whales are dumping into weakness. It's capital and underlying Bitcoin migrating off exchanges and into ETFs and institutional custody channels. The quote collapse in balance reflects a shift in where Bitcoin is held and traded, not net selling. And then why does Binance outflows look like selling pressure? Well, when a whale or a fund or an authorized participant sources of these Bitcoin ETFs create ETF shares, it triggers an on-chain outflow that registers as selling. But in reality, the coins aren't being liquidated for dollars. They're being recustodied, moving from exchange wallets into regulated ETFs or institutional cold storage. On-chain analytics record this as a decline in exchange reserves and a fiat inflow/outflow. Even though ownership hasn't left the system, it's just changing custodial layers. So the chart doesn't show whales taking profit. It shows a silent institutional migration, a transfer of settlement infrastructure from offshore venues like Binance to onshore regulated ones, which is something we have heard a lot of the top institutions or top politicians in the US say. A lot of the recent bills being pushed through, a lot of the recent narratives is this idea to move, cryptocurrency from offshore exchanges onshore. And this is what a lot of the regulation has been doing. And it goes on, the deeper read, this isn't whales taking profit. It's the largest custodial migration in Bitcoin history disguised as selling because of how exchange metrics works. Price action is consolidating because the market is absorbing that transfer mechanically, but reflexive supply compression is quietly intensifying beneath it. What looks like selling is actually sovereign scale custody rotation. We're witnessing the invisible bridge from exchange liquidity to institutional collateralization. This is the final absorption phase before reflexive ignition resumes. And he actually goes on in another tweet, and he's kind of making the case that this is a good thing. That this is how, what do we always say? The Trojan horse of Bitcoin infiltrates the system. That first of all, Bitcoin kind of grows up on the outskirts, and now it's basically becoming the heart of traditional financial all institutions and platforms, which I would argue is most likely the case here, that this is true. As we heard Fed Governor Waller yesterday say, he himself said that Bitcoin, or rather cryptocurrency, is becoming one of the foundational layers of the financial system, which is something Bitcoiners have been saying for a very, very long time. But when you see the second headline, and this was actually originally posted on Bloomberg, but I don't have Bloomberg, so I got to go with the Bitcoin Mag one. Here is the headline on Bloomberg. Or sorry, it was from Bloomberg, but it's on Bitcoin Magazine. And I think this is where things start getting very interesting, and you could argue a little nefarious. So Bitcoin whales are moving on-chain wealth onto Wall Street via BlackRock's IBIT. A quiet migration is underway among Bitcoin's wealthiest holders, from cold storage to custodians. A quiet migration is underway, again, repeating it. A new wave of U.S. exchange ETFs is allowing longtime Bitcoiners to fold their holdings into the traditional financial system without selling a single sat. The change comes after regulators approved, quote, in-kind transactions for spot Bitcoin ETFs this summer, a mechanism that lets investors deposit Bitcoin directly into a fund in exchange for shares, according to Bloomberg reporting. This mechanism is a tax-neutral move standard across equities and commodities ETFs. The result, this volatile digital asset becomes regulated, reportable holdings on brokerage statements, instantly easier to borrow borrow against, pledge as collateral, or include in estate plans. And of course, BlackRock, which is the biggest ETF and of course one of the largest asset managers in the world, has already processed over $3 billion worth of these conversions. Again, $3 billion. And Bitwise Asset Management says it now fields daily inquiries from investors looking to bring private Bitcoin holdings into managed portfolios. And liquidity provider Galaxy also has facilitated a lot of these. And this shift marks another iconic evolution for Bitcoin. The asset designed to exist outside the banking system is now being absorbed by it. As ETFs integrate Bitcoin into brokerage infrastructure, even many anti-establishment investors are realizing that some of TradFi's tools, custody, leverage, and estate planning, can't easily be replicated on-chain. And some holders are transferring only part of their Bitcoin, while others are consolidating everything into these ETFs for simplicity. This trend could expand Wall Street involvement with Bitcoin, bridging the gap between the crypto world and established finance. So I'm sure you're just hearing me say this, and you're like, okay, like Opti, you titled this show as BlackRock's attack on Bitcoin. And if it's not necessarily paper Bitcoin anymore, then what is the attack? And it's something I've been bringing up all week, is this idea that as Wall Streets are coming into Bitcoin, as there's a lot of concerns about centralization of holdings of Bitcoin, and as we saw with the internet itself, and as we kind of wrap our heads around exactly what are BlackRock's incentives to get into Bitcoin, like why now and what is their end goal, I think we're starting to see what that end goal is. And again, it's reminding me of what Simon Dixon has been saying the last couple of months, is this idea that Wall Street is coming into Bitcoin, or BlackRock and Larry Fink are coming into Bitcoin. And they realize after 16 years that they can't actually stop Bitcoin. They can't stop the network of Bitcoin. And yes, maybe there is still a potential paper Bitcoin attack. Maybe there's still a potential for rehypothecation, but the best way for them to try to gain control of this Bitcoin network is really trying to control as much Bitcoin as possible. And of course, as actually me and Sophie were joking about this, is like if they really want to control Bitcoin or get Bitcoin from us, then they should just pump the price and people will sell it to them. But we're starting to see that they're doing a very sly kind of roundabout way of trying to get your Bitcoin. Is they're incentivizing you to give up the keys of your Bitcoin for these ETF, for these polished TradFi traditional products here. And as we've been saying forever on this show, and has been kind of the recent theme the last couple of days, is this idea that what we're going to see happen the next probably 5-10 years is exactly what we're seeing happen right now. As the grown-ups come into Bitcoin, and I actually saw a couple Bitcoiners that I respect essentially saying, like, this is what grown-ups are doing with their Bitcoin, because of course, most people do kind of prefer going to a more traditional asset manager, and a lot of people aren't that comfortable with just self-custodying their Bitcoin and chilling and not getting all the perks that Wall Street wants to give you. And so well, it's ease and convenience and being able to collateral and crazy some leverage and stuff like that, which is just fiat games being played on Bitcoin. But anyways, the attack that I'm going to keep reiterating, I think, and Simon Dixon, I think, is right on the mark with this, is that they are now trying to incentivize you to give up your keys of Bitcoin so that they can control as much Bitcoin as possible. They realize they can't actually shut down the Bitcoin network. And so now they're just using whatever kind of, shiny object they can from Wall Street to basically convince you to send them your Bitcoin. And who knows what's going to happen down the line. But as we've seen in history, a la the Executive Order 6102, if you aren't holding your Bitcoin, then you don't know what kind of stuff they can do. They can potentially, now say, hey, this Bitcoin is ours. Anything in BlackRock and these ETFs, these in-kind redemptions, well, guess what? You can't actually redeem this Bitcoin again. You're just going to be okay with these shares or whatever dollars we give you, which is literally what we've seen in the past happen. So you're starting to see this sly kind of incentive structure build up where Wall Street wants your Bitcoin. This is something we've been saying for a while. They want your Bitcoin. They want Bitcoin exposure right now. And they're trying to figure out tricky ways for you to give up your keys and basically have them hold and custody your Bitcoin, which on the one hand does give us some legitimacy here. I know for us Bitcoiners, we're like, I thought we were here to, disintermediate the banks. And now, Opti and Nico and Simply Bitcoin are on the show, always applauding the banks and institutions coming into the space. Well, the reason we always talk about it is because that does give us some legitimacy for people to go out there and be like, oh, this Bitcoin thing is safe. But we constantly reiterate on the show, self-custody is the revolution. Do not give up your Bitcoin for some measly yield when the ROI and the risk of you not holding that Bitcoin is extremely high. And the more volatile the next few years is, the crazier this is going to get. And the safest place to be is holding your Bitcoin in cold storage under your control. You do not want to go chasing yield or chasing whatever little perk they're giving you, because now is a very uncertain time. And again, what we are seeing, or rather what we've been theorizing, is happening in real time. I'm not here to kind of disparage these Bitcoin holders. If you've been a whale and you've been in Bitcoin forever, if you're putting a portion of your stack into these ETFs so that you can kind of benefit a little, maybe like raise your credit score or something, live a little bit and use the traditional.
You think that's why they're doing it? I was about to ask you what could possibly be the upside for whales to sell into an ETF at this point. It's not like they're cashing out. They're still going to have to pay some sort of capital gain. I don't understand what the upside is here. Going from
I think
actual Bitcoin to paper Bitcoin.
I think the main thing is probably the collateral angle. Like if you have a bunch of Bitcoin and it's in cold storage on, like, you could say, yeah, I'm, 100 millionaire or whatever, if you've been holding forever. But if, as the critics like to say, if you can't actually do anything with that Bitcoin productively in the traditional system, then, you're holding beanie babies. And so if you have
can't they just open a bank account and hold the cash?
Well, I think that's the whole thing, is they're trying to figure out ways so that they don't actually sell their Bitcoin.
Either way, they're going to have to sell the ETF though.
Well, I'm pretty sure you could use shares as collateral for things. And so you basically say, I have this much wealth in this, get me a loan or whatever, use this for down payment on things and I'll pay it back. And so I see the incentive.
But there's so many companies that now offer loans with Bitcoin as collateral, like our friends at Ledin. Shameless plug. But seriously, there are companies that will give you I just don't understand. I really don't see the upside, to be honest, especially if you've held for this long, if you're already used to the inconvenience of self-custody and, you've held out this long only to sell out to BlackRock. That just doesn't really make any sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, I think they're playing, if you've been a Bitcoin whale for a long time, they're totally playing a different game. I would argue they're playing a different game than, you and I and the people in the chat.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, someone commented something pretty smart. Institutions give better rates.
Yeah, 100%.
That's probably the way that they're incentivizing these whales to give up their keys.
Someone says we're paranoid. Yeah, only the paranoid survive, bro. Only the paranoid survive. But this really leads to kind of I don't know if you guys watched the Simon Dixon Bitcoin Archive podcast that I've been kind of mentioning the last couple of days, but he's been saying that what we're seeing right now is kind of the proliferation or like the beginning of a two-tiered Bitcoin system. And you could frame it as, on the one side there's Bitcoin in self-custody, you control your money, no one can take it away from you, et cetera, et cetera. And on the other side is, one side is self-custody, the other side is, quote, captured Bitcoin. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now. They realize they can't actually stop this network. So what they're going to do is try to capture as much Bitcoin as they can in the traditional vehicles that they can, and they think that's going to help them and save them from their eventual demise. I'm not convinced that's going to happen, but I'm also not telling you guys to go do that. I'm just telling you this is also what I think is happening. I think this is exactly what we're seeing happen right now in real time. BlackRock realizes, greed is a strong incentive, and if they can, incentivize some people to get part ways with their Bitcoin so that they can get yield or whatever, perk that they think they're going to get from using the traditional financial system, they're going to do that. And then the real rug pull is later down the line. If they actually go about and do some kind of seizing of whatever Bitcoin's in that, in those ETFs, whatever collateral they have in those banks, whatever they're custodying, if they're able to use, some kind of tragedy or catastrophe to be like, this is ours now. That's what Bitcoiners try to mitigate, and that's what Bitcoiners try to fight. And so I think as we start to kind of enter further into this battle, or maybe not even a battle, further enter into Bitcoin integrating into the traditional financial system, there's going to be a lot of rug pulls along the way. And we've seen them happen in Bitcoin alone. Now we're seeing Wall Street come in and start to play those games. And so, again, I keep reiterating the same idea of, we got to be careful what we wish for here. Yes, they're here. Yes, we might not be seeing a, 80% drawdown in 2026.
But we might be holding for a little bit longer.
It might be a slower climb up. But there's also going to be these honey traps where they try to get a hold of your Bitcoin. And this is why we constantly say on the show, we're like, this is the longest running theme we've ever had on the show, is self-custody is the revolution. You need to be holding your keys. You need to be securing that Bitcoin correctly. Buying Bitcoin and just leaving it on an exchange is not enough. You need to take it into custody. And the more people that do that, the more they won't actually be able to control this Bitcoin network. Though, as we're seeing, they're obviously trying to control this in whatever way they can, whether it's regulations, whether it's trying to incentivize you to give up your Bitcoin for these Wall Street products, them coming in and creating these Bitcoin treasury companies. This whole thing is just trying to minimize your risk here. Again, in the white paper is like eliminate the middleman here. And they're trying to kind of insert themselves as, hey, you need us to custody your Bitcoin. You need us to collateralize your Bitcoin. You need us for loans. Like you want that yield, bro. Like, they're doing the little carrot here. So I think this is happening. Again, Uncle Larry has been employee of the month for a couple of months here, and I really do want him to pump our bags, but I'm also never going to give him, my keys here. I'm never going to send him my Bitcoin here, and I don't think you guys should either. So, that's my rant here on what I think is going on. BlackRock, it's almost like a not so secret attack anymore. I think a lot of us content creators are beating on this same drum. We're seeing this happen in real time. You need to take your Bitcoin into self-custody. You need to secure your own keys. And you really need to fight the siren song of, hey, I want to give some of my Bitcoin to Wall Street because I get whatever, better rates, more yield. I'm able to collateralize it. At the very least, if you do have enough wealth to do this, don't give them your whole stack like that. At the very least, do it with like a little bit of your stack. Don't do like that. The last sentence in that article said a lot of people are just giving up their whole stack to do this, to chase the yield. So
my perspective is a little bit more simple just because I'm not a macro person. I don't understand things, but I understand people. Inflation went back up above 2.25%. That means that things are more expensive and people need money. And it's really just as simple as that. The first thing that people are going to sell is what they perceive to not need in the moment, right? And for some people, that's Bitcoin, that's, the ETFs, that might even be gold, because gold took a huge, tumble. Like trillions of dollars got wiped out off the market after having such an amazing rally. So I think that all of that signals to the fact that people need money. And the Fed announced, or there was an article in Forbes that called that they are possibly going to print money again at the end of the month in a week from now. So that just tells me that BlackRock is taking advantage of people needing money so that they can stack Bitcoin at a cheaper price. And Bitcoiners have to be strong. People have to really hold on to their keys for dear life at this moment, because it's more important now than ever. Eventually, BlackRock is going to want to see the upside. BlackRock is going to want that price to go up because they want to win. They want to have a winning horse, but they're not going to do that without trying to squeeze every single last bit of juice that they can from this orange. And you have to
Pun intended.
Pun intended, of course. I would never say a lemon. um and that's kind of the bottom line. People need money. It's not even, I don't even think it's so much about the greed. The whales are incentivized because probably, rate cuts. I would even, this is like way too speculative, so don't take my word for it, but maybe they're lumping in other things into that ETF, such as housing and gold and silver, and they're just making it like this hard asset ETF in general. But I digress. I think that bottom line, people need money, people need liquidity. We are all in the trenches right now with you guys, and the best thing that you could do is hold on, hold the line.
Yeah, and that's the real takeaway here. A lot of people say that hodling is easy. It's not easy. Like, yeah, all you got to do, the blueprint is simple. All you got to do is buy Bitcoin, take it in the cold storage, and chill. But the hard part is dealing, of course, with massive price rises where you're kind of incentivized to sell a little bit here. You're like, I can offload a little bit here. It'll come back down. Maybe it doesn't. The second one is, of course, when it drops and you feel the pit of your stomach in your throat and you're like, damn, there goes my whole net worth. That's obviously not so easy. The third one, which is really kind of the first one, is trying not to step on these landmines and give control away from your own self-custody. This is what is going to happen. This is what's happening. But I do want to hit one question in the chat. What is this? DF4027. He goes, so where do we go from here? And how long will this battle last? I think this is going to be this is the battle now. This is what's going on. I think for the next 5 years minimum, if not the next decade, I think this is the battle. So the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to be, I think, a reoccurring kind of process of them trying to incentivize you to give up your Bitcoin. Obviously, the price is most likely going to go up, and then they're going to drop new products, and there's going to be new and shinier products, and they're going to say, this one's whatever, FDIC secured or FDIC insured. This one's got the best custody. This is, I don't know, the big shiny name out there. This is going to be your life for the next 3 to 5 years here.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have the issue of,
if not longer.
This bank was just discovered to not have the Bitcoin reserves that they claim they do. That's also going to be a thing. And, people are going to get rugged on their ETF. So the best way to actually know how much Bitcoin you have is to just hold your own Bitcoin. Like, there's so many more benefits to it than not. And eventually, I think as retail catches on, you will be able to use Bitcoin and transactions day to day. There's a lot of states that, are opening up to that reality, or that opportunity. They're allowing their constituents or their citizens or whatever to pay utility bills, electricity bills, taxes, whatever, what have you, with Bitcoin. So, it's only a matter of time before small businesses are able to actually function on a Bitcoin standard, and, their customers will be able to pay in Bitcoin, and that'll be, a win-win for both sides.
Buying things in Bitcoin is also an attack to give up your Bitcoin. No, but you're right. You're
getting what you want.
You're right. I'm just trolling. Actually,
at least you're using Bitcoin as it was intended, which is currency.
Yeah, it's money.
Like we were never supposed to get to this point where we see Bitcoin as just an investment. We were supposed to see it as the revolutionary currency of our generation. And I think that there's still time to do that, because there's so much opportunity out there for business owners, entrepreneurs to implement it into their small business. What are you laughing at? I literally
I'm laughing at the chat. Someone said, I just bought a burger and fries with Bitcoin at Shake Shack. What are you talking about?
There you go.
Dude,
there you go.
You just got scammed by Shake Shack. No, I'm trolling. But hey, I got another homework assignment for everyone. I haven't really plugged it in a while, but go read Bitstein's Everyone's a Scammer. And he literally is talking about exactly what's going on right now. And this was written like 10 years ago. So it's not a new thing. It's just that we're seeing it happen in real time. You're seeing these products being dropped. But classic, Everyone's a Scammer. Play the theme song as well. Anyways, guys, I do want to remind you guys to, of course, smash the like button, comment on the show, let us know what you think about the studio, what do you think about the show, what do you think about my conspiracy theory here about BlackRock trying to steal your Bitcoin. It's actually not just mine. And of course, hit the subscribe button. We drop the most content on YouTube, period. And then, of course, our partner Bitcoin. Oh wait, actually I got one more thing. I forgot about this. I want to bring this up because Jeff Booth said something that is extremely spot on, and I completely forgot it. And he goes, Wall Street is desperately searching for assets to protect them from the debasement of their money while completely missing that they don't have to anymore because now the money is the best asset. Traders will be traders though, and each will find in their own time. Guys, this is the takeaway here, guys. So anyways, of course, if you want to buy some Bitcoin, which you totally should. Which you should be doing if you have money left. If you haven't bought in all the dips and you're broke and eating ramen like I am, not just because I'm sick, make sure you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. And when you sign up, you're going to get 3 chances to win 1,000,000 sats. I repeat, just by signing up, you get 3 chances to win 1,000,000 sats. And then every time you buy Bitcoin, you get more points to do spins in the wishing well. And when you refer friends, et cetera, the chances keep going up. And of course, the reason we love them is because they make sure the attack that I just told you would never happen, because they never hold your Bitcoin at all. You send them your dollars, the Bitcoin gets sent directly to your cold storage. They've never lost Bitcoin. They will never lose Bitcoin because they never hold your Bitcoin. Once the money goes through, it goes directly to you. This is the best way to be buying Bitcoin. Anyways, guys, the rest of the show, I got a clip. Dude, Luke Gromen's been kind of absolutely killing it. And I got another clip for him kind of, talking about this very same thing. Obviously, he's a little more broad in the idea of the war between basically you and I and the banks and where we are in the story. And then later on in the show, guys, everyone's saying the quiet part out loud. There is a lot of concerns going on in the U.S. credit markets and the dollar. I got a bunch of stuff for you guys there. And then in the culture, Sophie wants to talk about nickels. Why are we talking about nickels? But
because apparently
it's a funny story.
Because apparently they appreciate and value more than other things.
Yeah, dude, it makes no sense to me. But we're gonna be talking about this guy.
It makes no sense to me either. But you know what? Like, memes become reality.
Well, he did steal Bitcoin memes to
he did. I thought that was hilarious. This guy is like for sure a Bitcoiner, but whatever. We'll talk about it in the culture.
Let's go. Okay, guys, we'll be right back after this break.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
Okay, guys, we are back, and the current Bitcoin price is $108,040. I repeat, 108,040. We are negative 14.4% decline from all-time high, and the current market cap of Bitcoin is $2.15 trillion. And if you are anti-Gregorian calendar, then the current block height is 920,283. I repeat, 920,283. All right, guys. So, as I was telling you, I played Luke Gromen. Luke Gromen, I think it was yesterday. I forget. Dude, this sinus cold is killing me right now. I can't remember days anymore. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, I think it was yesterday because he was talking about gold. Yeah, it was yesterday. There's a new clip. He just went on What Bitcoin Did with Danny. Shouts out Danny Knowles. He's killing it over there. And you guys asked me, or that guy, I think it was DF or whatever. He asked me, like, where do we go from here? And how long will this fight take? And I said, basically, the rest of our lives, most likely. Well, here's Luke Gromen's take, looking at the past of what is the fight and where are we in this fight. So I'm going to play the clip and I'll be right back.
The issue that has always swept down through the century and that will have to be fought once again is the people versus the banks. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a quote that defines the moment that we're in. Ultimately, the banks and the bond market have won for 40 years. Economic policy in this country, be it what the Fed has done with rates, be it with the offshoring of the industrial base to lower deficits, to lower inflation, reduce costs, etc. It has all been done with one goal in mind, which is to subjugate the U.S. middle and working class to support the real value of the bond market and by extension, Wall Street. And that has now been taken too far. And so if we want to be where I think most Americans would agree we want to be, then yeah, pain is all in the eye of the beholder, right? It's something I say all the time is, what's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly, right? If you if you own lots of long-term treasury bonds, what I'm advocating would be very painful.
If you own Bitcoin,
if you own gold, if you own productive businesses, if you're a working class person whose wages are going to rise as fast or faster than inflation, maybe for the first time in 50 years, that's not as painful. And I think as a country, we wake up and you have a more rebalanced economy, a more self-sufficient economy, where you're not as reliant on potential adversaries for key things. It's tricky. It's bumpy. There's no guarantee it's going to work. We've let it go on so long. It's a little bit more market-driven, paradoxically, right? Ultimately, if we do those things, there should be more inflation. But that inflation is a market signal telling us, hey, you've underinvested for 40 years in your industrial base, in your working class, in your skilled trades, in your young people. And now you need to catch up. And doing that is going to be inflationary. And that is just the fallout of the decisions we've made over the last 30, 40 years.
Dude, just hit the nail on the head, guys. How prescient this clip is incredible if you're really following along. Of course, now as Soph was kind of trolling me, she's like, I'm not a macro guy now. I'm hardly a macro guy. I think that's where the most interesting stuff is happening.
Yeah, but if you're not a macro guy, I'm like,
yeah, I'm speaking Chinese.
I'm like really not a macro guy.
I'm speaking Chinese. But I think the reason I've really dove into macroeconomics after everyone's a macro person on Twitter, I didn't do it for the engagement. I should have done it earlier, but it didn't excite me at the time. But I think currently, and I've been telling all my friends this, they're like, what are you into right now? And I'm like, dude, I'm like a macroeconomic nerd. Like I'm a geopolitical nerd right now, because I think that is the most interesting stuff happening right now. And if you can try to understand what's happening in the macro markets and of course in the geopolitics, then you can better understand what's going on in the markets, especially when we have Trump, trade wars on Twitter and whatever's going on with China versus the internet, or China versus the US, or what's going on with Russia, etc. Like, there's a lot to unpack there, and this is why I keep saying I'm
tired.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tired of the price, but it's a totally different conversation. There's a lot to unpack with everything going on in the world right now. And you have to kind of dive down a bunch of different rabbit holes. But I think Luke hit the nail on the head. Like, this is the battle between, the average person and the banks. And a lot of the things I've been talking about recently, it's becoming clearer and clearer to me that that is exactly what's going on. Even though the banks are coming into Bitcoin, they want your Bitcoin. I don't think they're giving up control yet. They haven't fully capitulated and admitted defeat. And then when you look at what's going on in like the gold market, you see what's happening in inflation, and like most people's measurement and indicators are just completely whack. They're just completely out of whack here. The only thing that is really giving a signal is Bitcoin. And I was watching Jack Mahler's Mailbag Monday, his weekly podcast this morning, and he said something that I think more people need to know. His idea is like, look, guys, the U.S. is in $37 trillion in debt. And yes, we've been the world reserve currency for, the last 100 years. And like, the bill is due. Like, someone's going to have to pay for that $37 trillion. Like, someone will have to foot the bill. And all of the stuff that we're seeing come out of the Trump administration, even the trade wars we're seeing between the U.S. and China, this is all trying to figure out ways of how do we actually, like, who's going to realize this bill here? Who's going to actually pay the price? Because
plot twist.
Yeah, you have to pay the price. Yeah, exactly. Like, you will have to pay that price. And I don't know if you guys know how big $37 trillion is, but it's a pretty big number. All right, guys. So someone's going to have to pay that price. Now they're trying to figure out whatever way they can do that to pay that price, but it's unignorable, or it's actually becoming virtually unignorable. Of course, Jay Powell and the people in power can try to ignore it as much as possible, kick the can down the road. But this is the war right now. This is the battle that's being waged right now, is who's going to actually pay that bill. And if we learned anything from the 2008 financial crisis, it's probably not going to be the ones that caused the problem in the first place. So you can no longer trust these institutions. You have to protect yourself. You need to hold Bitcoin. And even in that clip, Danny was kind of trolling. It's like, but if you're holding Bitcoin, you're probably going to be okay. And I mean, Sophie and I have had these conversations a few times. It's like, we don't really want to wish our friends and neighbors getting wrecked, our countrymen, whoever is part of your tribe. But if they're not holding Bitcoin, or at the very least some gold, that's what's on the horizon for a lot of people. I don't know if you guys have been hearing the conversation, but many people basically saying, like, we're entering into a world that, like, you're either going to hold Bitcoin, or you're going to be part of the helicopter money, like you're universal basic income type person. And that is the real, just like, never going to get out of the cage. And so it literally is like, you should be stacking as if your life depends on it, because that's what's going on. And then, of course, the secondary one is securing your Bitcoin like your life depends on it, because that's the real secret of all of this. So anyways, I'm ranting, and I think I need to blow my nose.
Oh my God, we're so wrecked physically, spiritually, price wise.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, I love what Gromen said. I love that he said pain is in the eye of the beholder, because I think that our expectations are really what has been causing all of this pain. We really thought that, it was going to be like every other cycle. And the reality is, and I say this every show, Bitcoin always does the opposite of what people want. And Honey Badger doesn't care, right? I mean, like, we literally built our entire maxi ideology around this idea that Bitcoin is going to do what it wants, and it's also for enemies. So, we kind of have to, right now is the moment where we have to live up to those standards, and also realize that the pain could be so much worse if we were our friends, some of our family members too, who don't own Bitcoin. At least we have a leveraging tool. Some people are just going to, succumb to serfdom forever because they didn't believe in Orange Coin, so everything could be so much worse. And still, we have to stick to our principles and just keep holding.
Yeah, and
Like that's kind of like the
everyone's saying
moral of the story.
the price is nuking, and we're under 108, guys. I guess October is actually canceled, and it's October, so we had a good run. October, guys. Damn. Yeah, so it's under 1. Well, it's back at 108. At least that's what Binance is saying right now. Oh, this is Bitstamp. Hold on, let me see what's Binance saying. Well,
I'm actually surprised that it's held on despite, you know, Trump still talking about the tariffs and, you know, negotiating with China and disclosing every single aspect and step of that process, which he doesn't need to do, but
I like this comment. Oh no, we're being denied the chance to buy Bitcoin when it's more expensive. Darn. Dude, what is
okay, I think that person missed when I said liquidity crunch. Things are getting more expensive.
We're broke.
We're broke, homie. I don't know where you're getting your money from, but you know.
Oh man.
I went all in a long time ago, dude.
Dumptober is official. But yeah, I mean, it is hey. Anyone that told you hodling was easy
lied.
Yeah, they weren't built for this. But look, everyone's been calling me a fake maxi the last couple of days. I mean, look, just because I'm watching the price of Bitcoin and my job is to react to it. I haven't sold any Bitcoin. I'm chilling.
Yeah,
Dude,
this
I'm
is true
chilling.
conviction.
I'm straight chilling.
It's being this tired and yet not selling a single cent.
Look, I'm not eating ramen tonight because I'm broke. I'm eating it because I got this sinus problem.
I think you need to up your conviction and just start fasting at this point.
I think I need to up my conviction and get a ribeye. Anyways, let's go into the saga around the dollar and the credit market. So we will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
Hi guys, it's me again, ASMR Sophie, and I'm here to tell you to buy the BitKey using promo code Simply for 20% off. Do you hear this? That's the sound of ultimate security. You're gonna want to buy this for your entire family this holiday season, so make sure to get yourself a BitKey with the promo code Simply for 20% off.
Wow. Amazing. 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 BitKey ASMR with Sophie.
Nico, I want
Yeah, we need to give you a raise.
I want a raise.
We need a raise. All right, guys. So
I'm kidding. I don't get paid. You think I get paid? I don't get paid.
Okay. Let's not talk about the. I can't even make that joke. All right. Anyways. There has been some interesting stuff going on in the general kind of attitude around AirPods Pro 2. The general sentiment around the dollar and what's going on in the credit market. So as I was covering last week very briefly, it looked like there was a regional kind of banking crisis. A lot of the stocks were falling. We don't really know what was the cause of it. A lot of people were speculating that there's going to be some more, companies floating down the river later. But I have a bunch of stuff here on just the general sentiment around the dollar. And the first one I want to start with is this tweet here from Fiat Squawk, and it goes, UBS warns recession probability now at a staggering 93%. It's been raised from, what was it, like 10% to 50%. To now we are at 93%.
I think we're just making up numbers at this point because this is not a surprise to anybody.
I mean, I would argue we've been in one for the last 5 years, but what do I know? I just talk shit over here.
They're making numbers up straight up.
Yeah, totally. They're just like slowly but surely, raising the temperature until they're like, actually, it's 150%, and you've been in it for the last 5 years. So there's here, they're starting to leak the indicators, or at least maybe they're starting to prep the groundwork to tell us that actually we've been in a recession. And a lot of people have been saying like we're on the verge of a depression, not just a recession. Like the recession's been so bad that it's going to end up a depression. Now, I don't know about all that necessarily, but and I do kind of have a flip the script on this afterwards. Let's also kind of look at who is saying all this stuff, and that might be some signal in and of itself. But next, we got, my girl, Chrissy Lagarde. She's starting to say that it's looking like people are, not having as much faith in the dollar, that the trust in the dollar is eroding. So I'm going to play that for you guys, and we'll be right back.
You have also said recently that you think investors have begun to question whether the dollar would still warrant its status as the ultimate safe haven currency. I mean, the American dollar is one of the strongest weapons, frankly, that the administration has to use. Do you think that it is the rise of cryptocurrency that is most threatening to that, or why are you worried?
I see signs that the attraction of the dollar is slightly eroded, and future will tell whether there is more erosion of that. But when you look at the rise of cryptos, number one, when you look at the price of gold is typically, in any situation, the ultimate destination for safe haven. Price of gold has increased by more than 50% since the beginning of the year. That's a clear sign that the trust in the reserve currency that the dollar has been, is, and will continue to be, is eroding a bit. In addition to that, we've seen capital flows outside of the US towards other destinations, including Europe. So, for a currency to be really trusted, you need a few things. You need geopolitical credibility. You need the rule of law and strong institutions, and you need, I would call it, a military force that is strong enough. I think on at least one and possibly two accounts, the US is still in a very dominant position, but it needs to be very careful because those positions erode over the course of time. We've seen it with the sterling pound, way back after the war, but it happens gently, you don't notice it, and then it happens suddenly. And we are seeing intriguing signs of it. which is why I think that having a strong institution with the Fed, for instance, is important. Having a credible environment within which to trade is important. So volatility, uncertainty, to the extent it is fueled by the administration, is not helpful to the dollar.
Guys,
I love the jewelry you bought her.
I
by
know.
the way.
Well,
It's
you know,
gorgeous.
I was also going to say that you can tell I had an effect on her because she stole the gradually then suddenly meme. So, you know, I did my part, sort of. I got one meme in there. But
she's actually saying all the Bitcoin things. Like all the things that she's saying are slowly and gradually, but suddenly happening with Bitcoin. They're, you know, I'm not going to say the militarization thing. That's her own authoritarian BS, but
I mean, she is not wrong. Like the dollar is backed by the military industrial complex.
yeah, well, how long until, you know, whales 10, 20 years from now are also going to be protected and have their Bitcoin protected by military or security personnel?
Citadels, let's go.
Exactly. Like there, I mean, this isn't like really that original.
No,
to be honest.
our network's not backed by.
No, it's
the
not.
military.
No, it's not. But in the future, like we don't know the lengths that people will go to protect their Bitcoin, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
on an individual level. But I digress. I can't believe that she's really taking this approach on the dollar when the euro has been eroding for years, sweetheart. Like
yeah,
the euro,
you kind of lost that power like
Yeah,
250 years ago.
yeah, it's like it's very, very cute, but relax.
Though this leads to this comment I wanted to bring up. This is exactly kind of my thoughts on this as well. It goes, trust in dollars eroding by the digital euro.
Yeah.
Christine Lagarde. That is, I would argue that that's exactly where, like, if she had more time, that's most likely where that conversation was going to go. And that's kind of what I was saying, like, you know, there is a general kind of attitude of people losing trust in the dollar. You know, they don't really want treasuries right now. A lot of people are piling into gold. We're seeing that the US does have a couple, you know, some cake on its face over the last couple of years, considering all of the different, you know, offenses that we've had globally and all the different wars and stuff, like, and even internally, a lot of people don't really trust what's coming from the US government. So like, I think she is kind of right that people are slowly but surely moving away from the dollar. But again, it's the source. It's who is this coming from? Of course, it's Christine Lagarde. She is the EU or president of the ECB. And she has this initiative right now where it's like, you know, we want a digital euro. And if you kind of go into the Tom Luongo thesis, a lot of the stuff that Trump's doing is not really that favorable or profitable for the EU. And this is probably why she's coming out and saying that. And then going further, we have the Bank of England here saying something kind of similar. This is, instead of so general, it's a little kind of closer to what happened on Friday. And we have Bank of England chief warns of worrying echoes of 2008 financial crisis. Now, the interesting part about this is it does relate to what Jamie Dimon just said a couple of days ago, but I'll read a little bit. It goes, Andrew Bailey says a close look is needed at the private credit markets after collapse of two big U.S. firms. He has warned recent events in U.S. private credit markets have worrying echoes of the subprime mortgage crisis that kicked off the global financial crash of 2008. The governor said it was important to have the drains up and analyze the collapse of two leveraged U.S. firms, First Brands and Tricolor, in case they were not isolated events, but the canary in the coal mine. Are they telling us something more fundamental about the private finance, private asset, private credit, private equity sector? Or are they telling us that in any of these worlds, there will be idiosyncratic cases that goes wrong? I think that is still a very open question. It's an open question in the U.S., which is something that we talk about constantly. Again, this is coming from the Bank of England. I know there's a lot of spite between the Trump administration, what's going on in Europe. They're not really getting along right now, but it does go to what Jamie Dimon just said a couple days ago. Wall Street credit worries intensify after Dimon's cockroach warning. And if you don't remember what he said, Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan was saying that what we're seeing, you know, could lead to more stuff under the radar. And he says, Jamie Dimon about cockroaches in the U.S. Oh, his quote on the Jamie Dimon quote, he said, like, if we see one cockroach, then we might see a lot more cockroaches. And at the time, everyone was wondering, like, what exactly is he talking about? And then we saw the regional bank kind of catastrophe, and it said it made the decision after it became aware of illegal actions initiated by several banks and other leaders affiliated with 2 of its borrowers, an internal review on its own portfolio, and alleging fraud by the borrowers. So Jamie Dimon did kind of come out here, and again, when Jamie Dimon says something, guys, like, people listen, whether you like him or not. I would argue that, like, the 2 probably most powerful people in the US right now that are known is probably like Uncle Larry and Jamie Dimon. They're like the 2, they probably run the government, to be completely honest. But he is basically echoing exactly what the chief of the Bank of England is saying, is like, look, there is a problem in the credit markets, or is there a bigger problem in the credit markets than we are aware of? And of course, Jamie Dimon saying, hey, if there's one cockroach, there's probably another cockroach. And here's George Gammon. He goes, cockroaches equal higher counterparty risk. It equals less liquidity. It equals the repo red flags. As expected, we now have more cockroaches. And this morning, subprime lender PrimaLend enters bankruptcy after bond defaults. Again, we're seeing in the repo markets, very low liquidity. That has an effect on all of the regional banks. That's probably why we're seeing a lot of the catastrophes that we're seeing currently. And then on top of that, we are seeing, some geopolitical moves. Now, Max Kaiser's quoting this tweet here of Russia's Ministry of Finance, just said Bitcoin can be used in foreign trade. But this is like the signal, and obviously why this is being brought up, and it connects. As predicted, the world is exiting the US dollar. We're seeing this constantly in various different scenarios. Now, of course, whether that's in gold or, not buying treasuries, there is a general mistrust of our debt here. No one really wants to hold the dollar. And also, going back to the Jack Mallers Mailbag Monday that he just dropped, what is also becoming increasingly kind of prevalent is the idea that the U.S. can't actually use their force as much as they used to because we're basically broke and we don't manufacture anything. So the proof of weapon system that Simon Dixon always talks about, or the military industrial complex that backs the dollar, it doesn't really have the weight that it used to. And so there is a general kind of moving away from the dollar, and we are entering into more of a multipolar world. And depending on kind of what narrative you're listening to, or who you get your signals from, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing currently come out of the US could be interpreted in that way, that, the Trump administration is, if on the one hand, you could say he's reshoring production and, lowering interest rates so that people will take out more debt and lend some more money. And he's actually doing good thing for the U.S. On the other side, there's people saying he's basically doing a planned demolition of the U.S. and kind of minimizing our power to a more regional power instead of a global power. So, like, you can take this any way you want to, but the general trend is people do not want to hold dollars right now. And if you're holding dollars, or maybe you don't have any savings, obviously you need to buy some Bitcoin.
It's funny. I had this discussion yesterday with my dad over dinner, because I was telling him about how Europe is planning to make a central digital currency and whatever, and he said, oh, that might be a good thing. And I was like, no, that's like terrible for the, he's like, no, you don't understand. It's great that there could be this thing that is supposedly competing with the dollar and with Bitcoin, and once people see that even in the digital version it fails, they might realize that Bitcoin is the only way out, and that might be the final kind of thing that catapults people into Bitcoin, real Bitcoin, not just ETFs, not just the garbage that's on Wall Street, but self-custodied BTC.
Yeah, that's the hope, right? Let's hope.
I mean, competition exposes other people's weaknesses. So
Optimus Fields 2025.
Oh my god.
Dude, there's no election 2025. But yeah, whatever.
President of Simply.
Yeah, no, I got a new title this morning, but I can't say it on YouTube, so I won't say it. But anyways, we're gonna have a little fun on the culture. Sophie really wants to talk about nickels, so we're going to be talking about nickels on the culture.
I can't believe I convinced you to talk about
this.
There's
really nothing else for the culture. I do think it's kind of a funny story.
It's hilarious.
And he is basically stealing Bitcoin memes. So yeah, I honestly think he's trolling. I think he's totally trolling. But anyways, we'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank. And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. And join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
Yeah, the chat. Oh, sorry, wrong one. The chat. You guys are funny. Anyways. I don't know if you guys saw this. It is kind of it is funny. It's actually kind of hilarious. Anyways, let me read this for you guys. So this guy Kyle Mitchell, aka at Opinion Casino. I think he's he's not trolling.
There's no way this is a real person.
Yeah, I think he actually bought the nickels, but I think he's legitimately trolling. I mean his bio, extremely wealthy and handsome. I think he's kind of trolling. Anyways, he goes, I bought $250,000 worth of physical nickels. No, that's not a typo. That's 5 million coins, 55,000 pounds of American metal stacked in boxes from a local bank vault. An asset the government literally can't print anymore. Most people will call it insane, but let me explain the thesis. Each U.S. nickel is made of 75% copper and 25% nickel, weighing 5 grams. That means every $1 million in face value equals roughly 100,000 pounds of metal. At current metal spot prices, the melt value of a modern nickel sits around 0.043 to 0.047 cents, depending on commodity fluctuations, or roughly 90 to 95% of face value. That means the U.S. Mint loses money on every coin it produces. They've tried to change the composition for years, but Congress hasn't approved it yet. So what happens when they finally do? The old real nickel has become the last batch of government-issued coins containing significant industrial metal. When that happens, they'll vanish from circulation overnight, just like the 90% silver coins did after 1964. Those who hold them saw a 10 to 15x nominal gain over the following decade as melt value outpaced inflation. My $250,000 position, therefore, isn't a trade. It's an asymmetrical bet that the U.S. Mint will eventually debase the coinage again, that metal scarcity and inflation will continue to erode the dollar, and that a bag of nickels will one day be worth more dead than alive. Worst case, I still have $250,000 in legal tender coins backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. Best case, the melt value doubles, triples, or gets banned outright, which would make the existing supply finite and far more valuable to collectors and contrarians alike. It's not crypto. It's not stocks. It's not even silver. It's 5 million tiny claims on an industrial commodity the government accidentally subsidizes. That's deep value. That's the nickel standard. Okay, and then going further. This one's pretty funny. He goes, 5 cents or 0.05 is coded, guys. It's totally coded.
I'm
5 cents is
dying.
coded. It's coded into the network.
Did this happen to the penny, by the way? Because
Well, I mean,
that would be a good.
they are talking about literally getting rid of pennies, but no, I think they
already
started.
did that.
Did they already get rid
I
of
think
them?
they already did that.
Yeah, so no more pennies, dude. Hodl pennies.
Instead of 1 cent,
anyways,
it's
this-
worth 3 cents.
And yeah, instead of 1 cent, it's worth nothing. Here we go. And he goes, take all your money and buy nickels. Then take all your time and figure out how to borrow more money to buy more nickels. Then take all your time and figure out what you can sell to buy nickels. And if you absolutely love that thing, you don't want to sell it, then go mortgage your house and fill it floor to floor ceiling with nickel. Honestly, it sounds like he just copy pasted a Bitcoin post. But this one's the funniest one. 0.05 is coded. Hodl nickels, guys. Hodl nickels.
This guy's gonna get wrecked with the logistics and just moving on. I think this is actually like very symbolic because moving all of that metal, what does that remind you of? People buying gold. If people actually had bars of gold and they weren't buying paper gold, because let's be real, that's what people are buying and that's what's going up is paper gold. They would never be able to spend it. They'd never be able to store it. They'd have to like literally contract people to be able to move that stuff around. So this is hilarious. I think it's a troll on gold. I think it's a troll on Bitcoin. I think, he can't be serious. I think he probably bought a couple of nickels just to make this post.
He probably bought that box.
Yeah, he probably bought that
probably
box.
bought like $50 of
and
nickel.
like that's it. But it's genius. It's very funny.
It's going viral. But McHodl goes, is it even legal to melt circulating currency though? No, it's not. And actually, Sophie was bringing up some of his tweets, and apparently people are calling the
FBI and the IRS on him.
And he's
like even that part is very Bitcoin coded. It's very like, oh, like they're coming after me because they're trying to fight me. The government wants to take what they can't take anyway. Like it's giving, what's it called, Silk Road, like kind of like they're trying to take my Bitcoin, and so I'm getting calls from the FBI and the IRS. It's so funny. It's so fun. It actually like made my day.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny.
In the midst of us dumping to 107.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I think I legitimately think he is kind of trolling. But if we take it on face value, and of course he's using Bitcoin memes, it is kind of one of the things I always say, that a lot of people can kind of pinpoint the problem, but they just missed the solution. So like, taking this as actually serious and not as a joke. I'm sure maybe someone, maybe this guy's actually doing this, and I wish him the best of luck, obviously. But again, he did pinpoint the problem. And it's this segment right here. It's an asymmetrical bet that the U.S. Mint will eventually debase the coinage again, that metal scarcity and inflation will continue to erode the dollar, and that a bag of nickels will one day be worth more dead than alive. That first part, that they will debase the coinage. We've seen that constantly happen. And it doesn't have, it does have precedent in history that this is what's going to happen. And as we saw, I mean, I think we were talking about this week, Trump says he wants to do like a $250 bill with his face on it or something like that. And so like, we haven't gone full Zimbabwe yet. We don't have what is that $100 million paper bill, but these are the signs going on. As you can tell, he did very correctly pinpoint that they're going to debase the currency. And then it really goes even further into historical times of like coin clippage and what that does to society. Though this time he's like, they're just going to outlaw this, and then they're going to put less metals in it, and those aren't going to be worth anything.
But that's why it's so funny. That's why it's such an effective meme, because the greater message here is just so perfectly illustrated with this joke that he's making online. And it makes you think about like the bigger picture, how they're debasing the currency, how, the currency that we have isn't worth the metal it's printed on. It's chef's kiss. Brilliant. Meme of the year.
Yeah. Someone goes, he was so close. Just needed to take the final leap. And yeah, it's down
I'm
under.
pretty
says.
sure he has. I would not
He's
be
a
surprised.
Bitcoiner.
He's definitely
He's
a Bitcoiner.
totally a Bitcoiner.
And I think that he's just using this to kind of get to a more mainstream audience. Maybe for people, it's difficult to kind of comprehend how Bitcoin works, but everybody knows nickels. You learn nickels in kindergarten or the first grade.
Wait, maybe this is the signal here. Most of you don't have two nickels to rub together. Maybe this is why he chose nickels, to make a greater point.
No, I think he chose nickels because they're not printing the penny anymore.
No, he chose nickels because he believes in the nickel standard.
Wait,
guy's a genius. But yeah, I mean, the real story is about debasement of the currency. He's obviously, I think, look, I'm mind reading here, but I think he's obviously kind of trolling and making a statement here that's going kind of viral right now. So hey, we're talking about it. I think he made his point. So do not sell your life worth. Your life. Wait, I can't even think right now.
Yeah, no, I'm.
Do not sell
today.
Your net worth. Sorry. Do not sell your net worth for holding nickels.
Yeah, that would be bad.
You should sell your net worth to buy Bitcoin.
Not financial advice.
Yeah. He chose nickels because it's ridiculous. Exactly. Anyways, guys, this is the show for today.
Smash the like button, please. Let's get this to at least 180, 185.
Just share the
12
video.
Of you.
Yeah, share the video. Anyways, we'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully we're not dying over here. I don't know if you guys can
the coffee just wasn't strong enough today. I had coffee and I'm still like
I don't know if they can hear, but I'm like all stuffed up right now. But anyways, on that note, guys, we will be back tomorrow, roughly 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. On that note, this has been Opti. This is my wonderful co-host Sophie, and this was Simply Bitcoin Live. We'll see you tomorrow, man.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.